This is East Idaho Newsmakers with Nate Eaton.
Thanks for being with us today. We are talking with the Chief of Police for the city of Idaho Falls back here on East Idaho Newsmakers. I don't know if we've had a guest twice, so you're back. Although I guess you weren't chief technically last time, right?
I think I was the chief. It's been a year and a half,
okay.
So that's a long time.
You were brand new, or you had just been hired.
Yeah.
We want to talk about a few things. The reason that I wanted to do this week is with the news breaking that the Stephanie Eldredge case has likely been solved with the arrest last week. I guess he was technically in custody, but this is a case that a lot of people in Idaho Falls have been following for years now. And there's a few other cold cases we'll talk about, as well as what's happening with the current state of the police department. So, Chief, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for letting me be here, and thanks for letting me come twice. I didn't know that was a. Thank you for the honor.
We should maybe
we'll make it 3 times one time.
Yeah,
later on.
We might do this as an annual event. All right, so let's just start with the Stephanie Eldredge case.
Okay.
This is it's great to have any sort of cold case solved, but this is one that began back in 2010, right?
2007.
2007.
She went missing in June of 2007, and it started as a missing person case. And I'll talk about missing person cases later on as we keep going. And then in 2010, her remains were found up in the foothills, and that's when it switched from a missing person case to a homicide and murder investigation.
And here we are 9 years after her body's found.
Yeah.
What took so long to solve this?
Well, there was a lot of work done through that entire decade. What they did in 2007 at the missing, when it was a missing person case, build a foundation. What they did in 2010 and 11 and 12 to help build the case, built on that foundation. So the people that have been working on this for that decade did a lot of really good work. And if I can use a football analogy, they got it down to about the 5-10 yard line for getting an arrest and a prosecution. And then it just took a pretty big effort to push it over that goal line. So, the case was there. As I said before, when Sergeant Jessica Marley, she was the lead detective, when she gave me a brief on the case, she told me she really thought we could solve this one if we just had enough resources and time to put at it. And that's a big deal to the police department, to be able to pull people off of what they're doing day to day to dedicate themselves just on one case that was from about 10 years ago. That's a pretty good push to find that amount of resources. But that was a compelling statement she made, that this one's solvable, and that carried a lot of water. So we made an organizational commitment to doing whatever it would take to get the resources to get it that last 5 yards. And Sergeant Jessica Marley, Sergeant Jar Marley, Captain Bill Squires, he's over that detective bureau, and he just moved mountains in order to get some stuff done. Joel Tisdale, the lieutenant there, they all worked together, one great big team. People in patrol took on extra work from the folks that were going to work that case, and it affected the entire department. So it wasn't that just people were sitting around doing nothing for 10 years. There was a lot of work being done, and it just took an extra effort to push it over that goal line, and we're very happy to have been able to do that.
And there's a lot that goes on that, like you said, that we don't know about, the media doesn't know about, the public doesn't know about, probably on purpose, because you don't want, hats being tipped. Angie Dodge, is this one of those things where Sergeant Marley was able to focus on this particular case for months and months? Is that something you could do with the Angie Dodge case?
Well, we kind of took that's the thing we did with all the cases we're going to talk about. So with Stephanie's case, we made it so someone could just focus full time on it. We did the same thing with Angie's case. So the lead detective in Angie's case, we unplugged him as well and let him do nothing but focus on that case. Carol, I've gotten to know her pretty well over the last year and a half, Carol Dodge, and she is just a great person, and I just have the utmost respect for her. And I communicate with her quite a bit, and everyone at the department really communicates with her quite a bit. And so we unplugged a detective, and Detective Avery, the crime scene investigator, the one that helped out in Stephanie's case. We did the same thing with Angie's case. One of the things that Carol helped us get, along with I think it's East Idaho
cold case,
they donated a high-speed scanner to the police department, and Carol was very helpful in getting that done. In Angie's case, there were 2 decades of handwritten notes, reports. We've changed records management systems multiple times over that 2 decades, and so the original case is in in a records management system, a computer system that doesn't exist today. And so getting all those records put in one place that is searchable and we can look at leads from different times, that's just been happening in the last 6-7 months, and the high-speed scanners help to do that. You know, I was actually reading just today, there's all this news about some of these cold cases. I think there's a case in Washington right now that's being prosecuted from some genealogy work, the Golden State murder, all those are really exciting. People at Idaho Falls PD did all that stuff before it was done in these cases you're talking about. It just didn't work for us, right? But the process was invented a lot by us. The Golden State Killer detectives contacted our detectives when they were trying to write their warrants to get the information they had, because we had already done it and we had written those warrants already. So there's not a magic solution that can solve these things. But it's kind of an honor to step into a police department that's doing some of this just incredible cutting edge modern detective work. And I'll just say this about Angie's case. Angie's case, when you think of a cold case, you think of a case that's just sitting there and doing nothing. Angie's case is not a cold case. Angie's case is an active investigation. We are actively investigating it, and we're very hopeful that we'll.
Do you think there'll be new developments soon?
We're hopeful. It's an active investigation, so we've got people working on it actively. It's not a cold case sitting on a shelf that we go back to every now and again and dust off and take a look at.
So there could be another Stephanie Eldredge type news conference where...
So I don't want to get people, and I've had this conversation with Carol, right?
Yeah.
Carol's done this for 2 decades, and I think it's unfair to her to get her hopes up and then dash her hopes. And I've had this conversation with her. It's an active investigation. We have active things we're doing, and hope springs eternal. And we are committed as a department, as people. I mean, you've met Carol. I'm sure you've met Carol. Yeah. You know, we want nothing more than to bring justice for Angie, to help and get Carol to know what happened and to bring some justice there. There's just a whole line of people at the police department. That's their goal in life, and that's what they want to do.
There's also the teenage boy, Jed Hall, who vanished about a year ago, a little over a year ago, on his way to school. No sign of him.
Correct. So that was in January of 2018.
Yeah.
And so with Jed, and also with Darwin Vest, who was one of the other ones, those are a little different than Stephanie and with Angie. With Stephanie and Angie, we have what we know is a murder case. Yeah. We had scenes, we have evidence, we know when, we know where. We may not have known exactly what happened, but we know there was a murder. With Jed, it's a missing person case, and so we don't know what occurred. We don't know if he's missing, if something accidental happened, if there's foul play, if he's just somewhere and doesn't want to contact anyone. We don't know any of those things.
No sign of his car. He
no
left
sign
in a
of his car, and that's kind of what we're asking people. We're looking for a silver 2009 Nissan Versa with an Idaho plate 8BEF732. And there's pictures of that all over the place if you want to Google it. And as people are, again, in the springtime hitting and the summer hits, as they're out in the backcountry, there's a good chance that car, hopefully we can find it. So if people will keep an eye out for that, that would help us move that investigation forward.
Well, you mentioned Darwin Vest too. This is a little bit older, late 90s, I think.
99. So Darwin disappeared in June of 99. And I, of course, wasn't around in June of 99. Not a lot of people that are currently working were, but that year was a really big snow year, apparently. And the year before had been a big snow year with a lot of runoff, and apparently there had been a lot of flooding, and there was a lot of criticism for the people managing the waterway that they'd allowed that flooding to happen. So in 99, when there was that huge melt, they opened up all the gates for the river, for the Snake River to just flow. And it was a huge flow. And so the working assumption is that Darwin ended up in the river. We don't know that for sure. Mm-hmm. There was a report of someone saw a body in the river about 10 miles downriver from Idaho Falls about the time that Darwin went missing. We did a lot of testing to see how far things would go and if that was possible, and that seems to be accurate for what would happen. But we've never recovered a body in that case, so we're not sure if he did end up in the river. If he was in the river, we're not sure if it was an accidental falling in the river, which is possible, or if it was a criminal action, which is also possible. There's just a lot of unknowns. One of the things, though, with Darwin's case, because we've gone back and done the same thing with his case, one of the things we talked about is, let's just, as a department, as investigators, let's just be open to the possibility that something happened that wasn't our original theory, right? Maybe we were wrong about something. Let's just be open to that possibility and just follow the evidence wherever it goes. So we took a fresh look at Darwin's case as well. And in the last year, we sent detectives to multiple states to interview people. We did a couple polygraph examinations. We put a lot of work again into that case. And I still can't tell you exactly how he got in the river or if he went into the river. That one's a really hard one. That's going to take someone that was there and knew and saw to come forward and tell us what happened, because as we sit right now, there's no evidence we can go back and look at like there was in the Angie and the Stephanie case.
And it's been 20 years now.
99, yeah, so
Wow.
just about 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sure that these 4 unsolved situations, cases, and some
3 unsolved. One, Stephanie, we're pretty.
Yeah, Stephanie Eldredge, so down to 3.
Down to 3.
So you have, I guess, if you can do 1 a year for the next 4 years, then you can retire or do what you want to do.
Yeah, you know, I'm optimistic. I know that we will put the work into it. Like I said, there's no magic solution to this. There's no one process that if we do this, it will solve these cases. You know, some of them are just not solvable regardless of what effort is put into it. But I can't sleep well at night, nor will I feel okay about what we do. And I've got an entire department of people that would not be okay with it if we don't give it our best effort and do everything that we know to do and everything we can learn to do. And like in Stephanie's case, we were open to getting help from outside. You know, in Stephanie's case, we had a Cold Justice come and they helped us out a little bit with it. We've had detectives from other agencies help us out, and as we've talked to them, so we're open to having help from the outside and being willing to take a fresh look at things. So it's exciting.
You've been chief a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
You've implemented some changes. One of the things we've noticed on the media end is when a child goes missing, we get alerted pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I think the thought used to be a couple years ago is it seemed that you had to wait for 24 hours or 48 hours to report somebody missing, and then the media might or might not hear about it. It seems like, is there a more proactive approach as far as missing people are concerned so that you don't end up with some of these situations?
Yeah, so there is no 24-hour waiting period. That's gone away by federal mandate. That's not something we're doing to be good. That's federal mandate. You can't do that. They've done a lot of research, especially into missing kids, and the FBI, there's some great research. They went back and looked at all these child abduction cases, and in missing kids, you have a 1-hour window to do a live child recovery. That's the overwhelming number of cases. You got 1 hour. If the time goes further than 1 hour, you're no longer going to be doing a live child recovery, but you're into some sort of child murder investigation. Now, we know that a lot of these cases are just the kid went to a neighbor's house and didn't come home, or it's some sort of custody issue, or take your pick. There's nothing necessarily nefarious going on. But we can't just magically discern the difference between a child abduction and a kid that went to his neighbor's in that first hour. And if we wait that hour, we're too late. So we've made the decision that we're going to treat all of them as if the worst is occurring. We're going to put all of our resources and everything having to finding that child in that first hour, which includes reaching out to media for help. And if often it's their friend's house, that's fine too. We'll get them home to their mom and dad. But we want to be able to get there before that 1 hour expires, in which the research and the data says you're at that point too late.
What have been some of your other focuses over the past 18 months as far as your department?
So the Idaho Falls Police Department is a great police department. It has just some of the best people here. I've gone out and ridden with almost all the officers, and I've got 3 states now, 3 departments. I've interacted with a lot of police officers, and we've got in this little tiny Idaho Falls, right? In the grand scheme of things around the country, we're one little city sitting here in the middle of Idaho, right? But there are police officers that are as good as any I've seen anywhere, that just have a way with people and can talk to them. It is a great department. What we really need to do is just channel all that energy, all that enthusiasm for solving crimes, and channel it back out to do public safety. And that's been something we worked on really hard in the first year, to kind of resolve our our internal struggles we were having, and to channel that energy into solving crime and preventing crime and doing good. So that took up a good period of time when I first got here. We had some great people here that really made that work. After that, what we're really doing, one of our core values is excellence. And we want to be the premier law enforcement agency in Southeast Idaho. That's what we're striving to be. We want to solve these cold cases. We want to be a department that does good investigations and can bring closure to these cases. We don't want to create new cold cases. We want to do really good investigations, to have a really good public engagement with the community, and be an excellent police department that does really good police services for the community. And that's what we've been working on.
I have a neighbor that needed to file a police report a few months ago, and she called and said, where's the police station? And I explained where it was, and she said, well, where do I go in? Do I go in the courthouse doors? And when I walk in, where do I go? And for the average person that doesn't deal with a police station every day, normally other departments, you walk right in the main door, and there's a receptionist there, and they can direct you. That's not the case with you guys. You're in a pretty dated facility, and it can be intimidating to go down there, going through the metal detectors, trying to figure out where to go. I know that we've reported on the dated facility. What's the update on your building?
So I think we get 125th birthday next year. So Idaho Falls PD, I think, turns 125 next year.
Wow.
If I got my math right. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
I can't say the word that's 100. It's sesquicent.
It's some fancy term.
Some fancy term.
Yeah.
125 years. In that 125 years, we've been tenants. We've been borrowed space. We've leased a little bit of space. You might call us squatters right now. I don't know what the term is for us right now. But in 125 years, there's not been an Idaho Falls Police Department. And we're very grateful for what we have.
Because you're in the county's building.
We're in the county's building, and they're very, very great agency to work with. But that building was built in 1970. It was a 70s building. I think the population of Idaho Falls was 30-some-odd thousand at that time. The population's doubled. Our responses are much higher, and our needs are much higher than what they were in the 1970s. You mentioned coming into a metal detector, which is a common way to come into a courthouse. What you're doing there is you're coming into a courthouse. That's kind of how you come into a courthouse, and that's common. Courts, I don't want to say anything about courts, but they're not engaged in community-oriented courting, right? We try to be community-oriented policing, and so if the first thing you see is a metal detector and you're trying to report a sexual assault crime, that can cause you to not report your crime. So it's got some significant impacts. We're hopeful that we'll be able to get a new facility and do it in a wise and prudent manner. We've done a needs assessment, so I think I've got a good handle on what the department needs to do its function to fulfill its mission. We had a consultant that we hired that helped validate that needs assessment to make sure that we were looking at what we needed and not looking to build. No matter what we do, someone's gonna say you're building a Taj Mahal, right? You could build a cardboard box and only have 3 walls of cardboard around it. Someone's gonna come along and say you only need 2 cardboard walls because you can put a lean-to up here and you'll be fine. That's gonna happen no matter what, but we wanna be very careful that we're looking at building something that's reflective of Idaho Falls, that meets the needs for a growing community, meets the needs of the police department, allows us to solve those crimes and be a community police department. So we're almost there. We've got a citizens advisory group that we meet with regularly that's helping us vet a lot of those ideas about what we might need or might not need, what we might be able to do without. We're looking at different ways to fund it. We're looking at a lot of different things. So by the time we come to the public and say, here's what we're needing to do, we hope to have all the I's dotted and T's crossed and have done all the research so we can present a really well thought out plan.
Do you have a timeline as far as when the public might know and when you hope to have the building done?
So we would like to have it ready to roll out to the public in the next 6 months to a year. We would hope to have some ideas about the location, and once we have a location, we'd have a really good idea of the cost. So that'd be about 6 months to a year, we're hoping. Once we have that, then you're gonna have to find a funding source, right? So contingent on the funding source, it's about a 3-year construction cycle usually. So we would hope in the next 4 years to have this completed.
I Have you been following the Jussie Smollett developments?
I read about it every now and again. I actually get on your website. I read
Oh,
your
okay.
stuff.
Did you see the latest stuff yesterday?
I did, yeah.
Okay. I just thought of this as a police chief. The police chief of Chicago came out with the mayor and blasted the prosecutor for dropping the charges and said that they have evidence that he allegedly did what he did criminally. As a police chief, what are your thoughts on that? That's got to be frustrating to spend all this time and money and have your guys and gals working so hard and then having something like this happen.
So I'm gonna play this a little safe, and forgive me, because
Sure.
it really infuriates me when other chiefs comment on my cases when they have no idea what they're talking about.
You could
right?
take a generic approach
Right.
too.
So
yeah.
I have no knowledge about what's going on there other
Sure.
than I've read in the newspapers. In general, there's the system is designed for a prosecutor to review what the police department does. You know, we can take Stephanie's case, right? The police don't come and bring those charges. It's the prosecutor that does it. We present a case, we think we get it there. And even in Stephanie's case, you know, we started talking to the prosecutor some time ago, and he was like, oh, I need a little bit more. Here's what I need. This is what you need to do. And so they have a very vital role to play in our American justice system. When it works right, it works in the interest of justice. So the prosecutor is working with the police department to help us know, do we need something more? Are we there? Because they have their own ethical and legal guidelines. So usually it works right, but there's a separation of power there by design in our system. Sometimes both sides get frustrated if the other's not doing what they think they ought to do. But that's kind of the way American government works, right? You can make that statement about every competing co-equal branch of government, right? So
Yeah.
It's the design, the way the founders designed it, and overall, I think it works really well. I don't know how it's working in the case you're bringing up. I don't know if that's an example of it working well or not, but
Well, probably not, but
the
at least for this case.
the design is intentional to have that separation of powers, and I think that's a good design.
And as far as we have seen, it seems to be working in the case of Idaho Falls with the Bonneville County prosecutor, and even with the Bonneville County cases sometimes.
Yeah, you know, there's always that back and forth. You know,
Sure.
We'll go and present a case. Sometimes they'll decline to press charges. We might think we've really got a case here, and we'll have conversations. Sometimes we can show them, no, we really think we have a case, and explain it to them. It was just a misunderstanding, and they take it. Sometimes it's we need to learn a little bit about what they need to do a prosecution, and there's some learning back and forth. It's a separation of power that works really well.
All right, what do people need to know about the police department that they don't? They might not right now.
So we are a young police department. I believe it's about 40 of our officers have 5 years or less experience in the field, so a really young department.
40 out of how many?
Out of 92. So
Wow.
it's about almost half our department is 5 years or less. Right now, as we speak, we have 9 officers in training out of that 92. So that's 10% of our department is in training. It's either field training or in the academy. We have 4 new officers we're going to hire on April 1st. So we have a lot of new officers, which is exciting because it's kind of a time you can kind of reinvent yourself, reinvent your culture, because you're starting off with a huge cadre of brand new people. So it's exciting and scary at the same time, because if we get it wrong, we get it wrong for a decade plus. And if we get it right, and it can last for years and years and years. A lot of our leadership is new as well. You know, we're getting there. I've been here a year and a half now, and a couple of our captains, Steve Hunt, Bill Squires, are about a year under their belt now, and a lot of our lieutenants are getting close to a year. I don't think any of our sergeants have over 2 years. I think all of our sergeants are under 2 years. So it's young leadership, young employees. So that means it's ripe for new ideas and innovation, and it's kind of exciting.
For those people that ask about transparency and releasing information to the public, I know you've been pretty open with us as far as the media is concerned. What do you say to those people about, you know, sharing stuff publicly, getting the word out, not hiding things?
So we will share everything as soon as we can. There's some things we can't. For example, in Stephanie's case, there's things you know things because you've read them in a probable cause statement, I'm sure. I still can't tell you about them and can't talk about them because that's the legal rule, right? And so there are rules that I'm bound by, and I have a a duty, an ethical duty, a moral duty, a legal duty to not share confidential information or things that could make a jury prejudicial. Outside of that, I look at us, we're public employees, we're a public agency. Another one of our core values is integrity, and we define integrity by knowing that all of our decisions are one day going to come under public scrutiny. Everything we do, one day, will have a bright light shown on it, and everyone's going to know about it. And everything we do has to be done knowing that that's coming one day. It's not all roses that the police department wasn't planning to talk about this, but the Blaine Reed case was a real hard one for us, and you reported on that one also. That's still really painful for a lot of officers. It's something that is really hard for me, and even in that case where all the details aren't just rosy for IFPD, we shared as much information as we could about what was going on and what was happening. Because I think it's important, good or bad. We're the public, we're a public agency, and the public has a right to know what we're doing and why we're doing it and when we're doing it. We're committed to that.
You've been in Idaho Falls 18 months. Best way you've found to eat a potato?
Best way I found to eat a potato? Sour cream and chives is still my favorite way to eat a potato. Okay. I like a little bacon. I got more and more into bacon as time goes on. But,
all right, good. Chief, thanks so much for coming in and talking with us. Chief Bryce Johnson, the police chief for the city of Idaho Falls. He obviously had a lot of information for you. Any of the stories that he referenced, you can go back and check, do your own research. I know you can Google stuff and find out about that. And of course, we'll throw in, if you have any information about some of these cases that need to be solved or any other crimes, reach out to them.
Thank you very much. And if we can get some of those over the finish line, we'll keep working on them. So any help we can get from the public would be great.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for watching. Have a good week.